In this episode of the Happy Diabetic Kitchen podcast, it's all about ethnic foods, and did you know they can be very healthy? Today in the podcast, a conversation with Janice Baker, a registered dietitian and nutritionist, and a certified diabetes care and education specialist, and a good friend of the Happy Diabetic Kitchen. So stay tuned. This episode of the Happy Diabetic Kitchen podcast is sponsored by my diabetes supplier, US Med. US Med offers free shipping and a 90-day supply with every order. To see how they can simplify your diabetes care, call 1-877-840-8218. I did, and I can feel the love. Remember, there is a much better solution, US Med. Hello everyone, welcome to the Happy Diabetic Kitchen. I am your host, Chef Robert Lewis, the Happy Diabetic, and this is the internet's most delicious cooking podcast. I'm here in the kitchen, getting ready to explore a healthy diabetic lifestyle. I want to take the mystery out of healthy cooking and explore some amazing foods and my diabetic journey with all my successes and all my challenges. So let me help you live your best happy diabetic lifestyle. So welcome to the kitchen. And if you're new to the show, I am so happy you're here today. Again, welcome. In today's podcast, we have a conversation with Janice Baker, a registered dietitian nutritionist, a certified diabetes care and educational specialist, and so much more. We'll be chatting about ethnic food and their powerful nutrition properties for people living with diabetes and those wanting to live a happy and healthy diabetic lifestyle. The recipe of the podcast this week will be my prosciutto and cantaloupe salad. It's going to be simply amazing. I learned this dish while on a trip to Italy. And speaking about Italy and Italian foods, I'm going to share many more recipes in the future podcasts coming up. Also, tips from the Culinary Institute of America, my chef school, where I went to school. I'm going to share with you tips I learned at chef school. So if you're ready, let's get into the kitchen and get cooking. Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Happy Diabetic Kitchen podcast. And today in the kitchen, as we've had a number of times, is my friend Janice Baker. And we're here to talk about a couple very interesting subjects because we've talked about the Mediterranean diet, but guess what? There's more. And Janice is going to talk about the more of the Mediterranean diet because it's not the only way to eat. Right, Janice?
Well, that's totally correct for a number of reasons.
Before we get started, Janice, for all the happy diabetics who've never met you, why don't you just briefly tell everybody who you are and a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm Janice Baker. I am a registered dietitian nutritionist. I'm a certified diabetes care and education specialist, a certified nutrition support clinician, and board certified in advanced diabetes management. And I've been in practice since 1983. So there's 40 years for you, 40 years.
Wow.
Which I'm very proud of.
You live in beautiful San Diego.
Yes, I live in San Diego and the sun is out right now after some pretty heavy rain. So we're cleaning a lot up over that. That's been quite a mess, but it's a beautiful sunny but kind of cold day today for us anyway.
Well,
yeah.
Janice, I am recording this podcast in northern Minnesota.
Ooh.
Up near the Minneapolis, St. Paul area, about 2 hours north. And I would say there's probably at least a good, in some areas, 8 inches of snow on the ground.
Wow.
And it's about 30 degrees today.
Yeah. So anything below 60 here, it's the Ugg boots and it's layers.
Yeah, right. So Janice, again, thank you for being on the podcast. So happy that you're here. So let's talk about the more side of ethnic eating, because we have so many people listening from all over the planet of all different ethnic races and lifestyles. So let's just get right into it. And what's your thoughts? Tell us your thoughts about that.
Yeah. So, while we have talked about this for years, actually, the Mediterranean diet way of eating isn't really anything new. This has just gone back quite a while, but it's more of an, I don't like to call it a diet. It's like an eating pattern. It's not something you go on and off of, but it can evolve and it can include many things. And even within the context of the Mediterranean diet, there's a lot of differences. There's Greece, there's the Greek food, which is awesome. I traveled up and down Italy for a few weeks, and there's different cuisines, northern and southern Italy, which are all a little bit different because of the climate and the food availability. There's the Spanish food. There's all kinds of variations within the context of the Mediterranean diet. They're all wonderful, right? But across the globe, outside of the Mediterranean area, there's so many other wonderful, healthful cuisines that also match up with the nutrition goals that we generally set for most people. Again, not everyone it's right for many reasons. I work with people with many, many different medical diagnoses and goals of care for sure. But there's many cultures all around the world that have lovely, nutritious, delicious, sustainable, wonderful foods that I think we need to kind of look at too, and not infer that they're anywhere inferior to the Mediterranean style of eating. And remember, it's not just about nutrition. These food cultures and food choices and food preferences reflect history, culture, struggles of families, food choices, their physiology, their biology, what they have access to. So it's more than just about nutrition. It's about many other parts of the food culture that bring us joy, but also tell stories.
Because it's not a one size fits all kind of a thing.
Mhm.
And you know this about me because we've talked about this before. I do not like the word diet because it sounds on and off again and restrictive. It's more, like you said, a lifestyle way of eating that creates great habits for a healthy and happy lifestyle.
Mhm. And that changes as time goes on. Healthful eating when we're 3 is different than when we're 15, is different when we're 35, is different than when
Right.
we're 95. So even that evolves within each person and other circumstances that may come up.
Yeah. Well, why don't you just, if you would, why don't you pick a couple cultures that you like, and maybe
Okay.
let's talk about some of the food and styles of eating that would, easily blend over to many other styles.
Sure. So one of my favorites is the Hispanic, or Mexican, or Latinx cuisine, which, of course, being in San Diego, we're very close, and I have a daughter-in-law who's from Mexico, and her whole family's from Mexico, and we get some great, wonderful food, food experiences with them. So authentic. But, this is nothing new to me. I grew up in Los Angeles, with this around. So, one wonderful thing is, of course, the beans, the salsa, the corn tortillas, the avocados, they make these beautiful soups, wonderful soups. Their foods represent a lot of things because of their genetics, their physiological needs for certain amounts and types of foods. And so these all match up with a lot of health goals. Corn tortillas are whole grain. Beans are wonderful sources of fibers and protein. The salsas, the avocados, the peppers, great sources of antioxidants, very heart healthy. It's an amazing, wonderful, beautiful cuisine. And, I forgot my favorite one, chicken mole.
Oh, love that. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
that just sends me to heaven. Beautiful spices and things like that. So that's just one lovely cuisine that I like to talk about a lot.
But if you love that kind of food and want to learn how to really make it authentically,
Yeah.
Rick Bayless, Chef Rick Bayless, And I'll put the links in the show notes.
It sounds incredible. And again, these are all matching up with, the goals for good fiber intake, which is very protective of our cardiac health and heart health, and protects our liver and supports our GI function. So this matches up. I also want to mention this documentary I saw a few years ago. In just the process of making corn tortillas, when you see how they're authentically made, it's what goes into the process of making tortillas. And I've made tortillas before, and it's a very physical process. So you're not only making this wonderful, healthful food that's very satisfying and sustaining, but you're getting an amazing workout. I mean, my arms hurt for a week after I made tortillas one day. And so it's the backstory of what goes into it.
Yeah, and those kinds of foods are fun to cook, fun to make. And of course, we love to help people get back into their kitchens, and we love to help them learn how to eat healthy and have fun.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's all about an emotional side to eating, correct?
Oh, totally. And, what's more beautiful than a gorgeous, wonderful quesadilla with black beans and some avocado and salsa and a little bit of cheese on it, and, topped with guacamole and, all the other lovely parts of that. So it's simple too. It's assembly. You don't have to follow this recipe. You can play with it. You can jazz it up in different ways. Fruit salsas, for example, you can use. So salsas in itself, there's so many different takes on it. Hot sauces, there's so many different takes on hot sauces.
And you don't have to spend a fortune to eat this kind of food.
And you don't have to spend a fortune. You don't have to spend a lot of time. You don't need a cookbook. You assemble it, and you really can't ruin it.
Right. So I'm making a list as we're talking, Janice, and I want to kind of tick the boxes, right? So in the Hispanic Latino cooking, we've got high fiber, right?
Definitely.
We've got antioxidants. We've got protein. What else do we have to tick the nutrition boxes?
Yeah, well, those also, include what we call those micronutrients, like the B vitamins, vitamin C, salsas, tomatoes, peppers, great sources of vitamin C. This is why it checks all those boxes with, a little cheese added to it. You've got some additional protein, and you've got some calcium in there as well. They make their own different sort of cheeses. And again, in Mexico, for example, there's so many regions where cuisines vary depending on the access they have to food. You go to any country, there's going to be different regional tastes and access to food. As I was mentioning, in Italy, northern Italy versus southern Italy, quite a bit of difference there.
So here's a question I have very quickly. I know that in Hispanic cooking, there's oil used, and typically not olive oil, typically. Or is that not true?
Again, it goes back to their history because in agriculture and what they had access to, they did use a lot of, animal fat, solid fat, lard, that sort of thing. And that sort of thing is like, well, how much, how often to do the very, very physical work a lot of people did there. They needed enough calories to sustain them, to get them through days where their bodies were probably needing 8,000 to 10,000 calories a day, right? They just needed enough fuel. But again, as times change, as people live in different places and life changes, we want to definitely kind of look at ways to adjust ingredients that may be a little bit more heart healthy without compromising the taste or the flavors or the integrity of the recipes.
So when it comes to oils, what would you recommend if I'm heading down the Hispanic dinner plan tonight?
Yeah, I would say again, go for the more liquid oils like olive oil if you want, but there's canola oil, there's other liquid oils that don't have that saturated fat that has that association with possible cardiovascular risk.
Right. And if you're looking for an olive oil to cook with that is lower in olive flavor, I would go for the light
The light one,
olive
yeah.
oil.
And
it's
the nice
not,
thing these days, I have a lot of different oils on my shelf, like you probably do. And some of them have like garlic flavoring. Some of them have, I have this one olive oil I use, which is like a lemon infused olive oil. It is lovely. It's so good on everything. So yeah, you can even accent it with different flavored oils. They're getting easier to find just about everywhere.
Right. And when it comes to oil, like olive oil and canola oil, correct me if I'm wrong, but the calorie content is literally about the same.
It's pretty much the same. Yeah. Solid fat.
Yeah.
But the nice thing with oil, you know, again, you can use it judiciously. You can you know, it depends on what kind of cooking you're doing. As you know, there's a difference between sauteing and deep frying. And, you know, if you're drizzling it on top of the salad where you're not cooking. But the thing I learned, because I have several years in the food service industry, starting from way back, you know, if you're doing any deep frying, the temperature is so important, because if it's not hot enough, you know, the food stays in there longer and soaks it up more. So you have to have just the right temperature if you are going to do any sort of deep frying, so that you get it cooked, but it's not being saturated with it's a real, you know, science to that, right?
Yeah. And if you're going to deep fry, make sure that you have a good instant read thermometer. So that you know that the temperature that you're looking for, 340, 350, is there.
Because it's so important.
The 10 degrees, 20 degrees less, now, like you said, Janice, that food's just going to soak up.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So I learned that in real life with many years in food service.
Yes. Another misnomer too is that light olive oil is not light in calories. It's got the same amount of calories.
The flavor and the color. Yeah.
That's right. That's exactly right. So I know people have bought that saying, oh, it has less calories. But if you compare, it's about 125 calories per tablespoon across the board, canola olive oil.
Yeah, light can mean anything. But here's the thing, you know, I think some of the carryover from our fat phobia a couple decades ago, you know, fat is bad. You know, that was awful.
It was awful.
You know, we need some fat in our diet for satisfaction, to help our body absorb the fat soluble vitamins like vitamin A, D, E, and K. We feel fuller longer. So unlike a couple decades ago, which I'm glad we're past that, and I hope that never comes back, you know, we need some fat in our diet for satiety and for nutrient absorption.
Good point. Good point. Okay, we'll be right back with more on ethnic eating with Janice Baker. So I know this is hard to believe, but I recently signed up for Medicare. Now, what about my Libre 2 system from Abbott? As my pharmacy was trying to figure it all out, all the complicated paperwork, I was getting a little frustrated, and quite honestly, so were they. So I called US Med to see if there was a better way. And guess what? There is. Their motto is better service, better care. It's what they call white glove service. I was worn out by having to make multiple trips to the pharmacy, only to discover the orders were not even ready. Long lines, or they would say, we need to call your doctor. We need to get confirmation for the refill. It went back and forth and back and forth. And after about 2 weeks of this, I absolutely had it. I would reach out to the pharmacy and they would say, the doc never called us back, or they never followed up. That's the thing I hated the most. So, my recommendation, head over to usmed.com/happy diabetic. Are you ready for US Med to always provide you 90 days worth of supplies with fast, free shipping? Yes, free shipping. Look, they carry everything from insulin pumps to diabetic testing supplies to the latest CGMs, the Freestyle Libre 2 and 3, and the Dexcom G6. You know my love for the Libre 2 system, and US Med is the #1 distributor for the Libre 2 systems nationwide. Look, if you're just starting with Medicare like me, US Med should be your very next call. They accept Medicare nationwide and a broad private insurance coverage with over 800, that's right, 800 private insurers, plus an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. If you're looking for supplies from everything from insulin pumps to diabetes testing supplies to the latest CGMs, and you're looking for better service, easier service, delivered right to your door, free shipping, US Med is who you should be getting a hold of. Dial this number right now. Well, why don't you wait till the podcast is over? 888-885-0012, or simply go to usmed.com/happy diabetic. Don't wait any longer. Oh, wait a second. I think that's my doorbell. I think that's US Med delivering my 90-day supply now. Call them or go to the website usmed.com/happy diabetic now. Again, don't wait any longer. Okay, how about another cuisine, another culture?
I can't wait for this one.
Okay.
So I have,
and we're going to see, and I'm not to interrupt you, but we're going to see if it checks the boxes.
Okay. I had this amazing opportunity, probably, about 14 years ago or so, to live and work in Sweden for about 3 weeks. And this has been brought up every so often, but the Nordic diet pattern. So that was just such a great opportunity. And so the foods of Sweden, I got to eat some reindeer.
Wow.
Very lean meat. Their bread, it's not our fluffy bread that we have here. They love their cracker bread, the wasa type bread.
I've had that.
Or rye crisp,
Yep.
or a rye vita. And when you go down the bread aisles, I love to explore grocery stores in different countries. It's one of my most favorite things. The bread aisle is all kinds of shapes and sizes of their, sometimes called hardtack or cracker bread or rye bread. They're dark rye breads. They have limpa bread, lingonberries, a lot of fish, because it's, basically all, on the water. There's just a lot of bridges connecting it. A lot of fish, a lot of beautiful vegetables, of course. Cabbage, potatoes, things like that. It's a lovely, wonderful food culture that I think doesn't get enough credit for all of its health benefits.
Right.
So that was a wonderful food experience. And here's the thing about their breads, the wasa bread that you can find anywhere, the rye bread, it has beautiful fiber, antioxidants, a lot of nutrition. And then again, they love the fish. Reindeer is a very lean meat, not something we're going to see too much of here, obviously. But their cheeses, also lovely too, great source of calcium. So the Nordic pattern is similar in many ways to the Mediterranean diet, but it's the type of breads they use. And remember, potatoes get a lot of bashing, but potatoes are lovely, wonderful sources of fiber, vitamin C, iron, a staple in many countries, in my heritage for sure. You shouldn't be afraid of potatoes.
Right. Absolutely. I tell that to everybody, because when they get diagnosed with diabetes, right away they focus on the carbohydrate aspect of it. And, potatoes right up there.
Potatoes, listen, there's so many ways to prepare potatoes, but, they're not just French fries. I mean, nothing wrong to have some French fries every so often, and you can make them in different ways. But potato salad, you can make a lovely potato salad with like a vinaigrette dressing. And here's a cool fact. When you cook potatoes and then you cool them and cube them for a potato salad, the starch molecules undergo what we call retrogradation, where they sort of come back together. And that actually creates what we typically see as a lower glycemic response.
Okay.
And then you have the vinaigrette dressing on there, and the seasonings you love. That's actually really a nice, healthful side dish for like whatever kind of meal you want.
Awesome. I didn't know that.
Cool?
Yeah, that is cool. And I try to help people to imagine things in their house to use as portioning devices, like a tennis ball or whatever it might be for whatever you're eating. And I like to use the thought of a computer mouse as maybe the size of your baked potato. It doesn't have to be a size 15 Air Jordan tennis shoe size baked potato. So,
I've seen potatoes the size of a football.
Yes. Wow. Amazing.
And that was in Las Vegas. So
I believe it. Of course. Everything in Las Vegas is big like that. So I'm making some notes again. We checked the fiber box. We check the antioxidant and protein. Fish is high in omega 3s.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
I love wassa bread. Those cracker things are amazing.
Yeah, and you can top them with all kinds of nice things. Like they use like a lot of lean meat and their cheeses, and they top it with like sliced red onions or other things like that. So they use them as an accompaniment to meals, but also they top them with different things. And the fiber is a big deal. I was just talking to this with a client yesterday. There's two kinds of fiber, basically. There's the insoluble fiber. You think about all brand cereal, for example. It's not broken up at all in your system. But then there's what we call the soluble fibers, the gel type fiber that's found in oatmeal. That's many cultures use that. That's found in eggplant, that's found in beans. Here we are with, and beans are used in the Nordic culture. One favorite recipe, my mother-in-law has Swedish heritage, and they make a bean dish called brunaburner. And so beans are used all over the world, right? And lentils, like in India and other cultures. But the beans have the soluble fiber, which is a gel type fiber, otherwise known also as a prebiotic. So this is a prebiotic that helps to lower cholesterol, helps to normalize blood sugar, but is also fermented into what we call short chain fatty acids in the GI tract that feed the good bacteria, which is part of our immune system. So beans in every culture, and you can find them all over in many different ways, because they're a wonderful, nutritious source of protein and other wonderful nutrients along with the fiber.
And inexpensive.
Oh, totally. You could make them. Of course, you can buy them canned, which I rinse them off and throw them into soups and stews or salads, a side dish.
Right.
You can puree them to make like a dip or a spread. A favorite dish I'm going to be making from a book that I recently reviewed uses beans and tahini, which I ate a lot of when I was in Israel, to make sort of another type of spread.
Awesome. Okay, so that was good. I love those two. Now you brought this up. What about Middle Eastern foods?
Oh,
Israeli.
I could go crazy with that.
Let's go crazy for a few minutes.
I've been to Israel about 3 times, and the first thing I do when I get off the plane is to get a falafel.
Love those.
I mean, I just don't waste any time. To me, that's like everything in a package. So you've got the falafel, which is made from chickpeas or garbanzo beans.
And those are deep fat fried. Those are fried.
Yeah, they are, but perfectly.
Yes.
You've got the shredded cabbage, the onions, the tahini on it. They just ask you what they want on it, and I'm just in heaven. That is everything to me. You've got the whole Mediterranean diet in that.
I know. It's one of my favorite things. And if you're wondering out there, what is tahini? Well, it's like a sesame seed peanut butter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like peanut butter, but made with sesame seeds.
It is so good. I went to a tahini factory when I was in Israel. I had a food tour there, which is like, you have to do that. I'll set you up.
Okay.
It's so good.
Perfect.
But we saw a tahini factory, and so another amazing food there that I dream about constantly. It's called halva, and so
love it. Halva is my childhood memory of deliciousness and a delicatessen. But tell everybody what it is.
It's so good. It's again made from sesame seeds, tahini. It's got some sweetness added to it. There are shops in Israel that are nothing but halva shops. They look like jewelry stores almost, where they have all these cakes. They look like cakes of halva with all kinds of different flavors infused with chocolate and other pistachio. So they use a lot of nuts there. All kinds of different versions of halva. And it's like, I go crazy there. And again, this is a lovely confection, but it's so satisfying. And again, it's made from the sesame seeds, which are actually been studied to show to lower blood pressure. It's a nice source of nutrients and protein. So you can find halva here, but if you ever go over there and you go to a place in the marketplace and there's halva stores, it's amazing. It's just such a great experience.
It's a fun food, very unexpected flavors, sweet. It's, like I said, it's a childhood memory for me, for sure.
Yeah, you have to try it. But I have tahini on my shelf all the time because I like to make things with tahini. I make salad dressings from it, so it's lovely with some olive oil and a little lemon juice. It's a lovely salad dressing. It adds a lot of flavor to salads. I've made tahini brownies, tahini cookies.
Yum.
I stir it into oatmeal with some honey, and so it sort of tastes like halva in a way there. So again, you can find it anywhere.
Yeah. So what are some other foods in the Middle East? I know salads and eggplant salads and lots of cold salads made with vegetables. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was there, every morning you'd get up, and hotels often serve a big breakfast buffet. Unlike here, a huge part of their breakfasts are salads, like green salads with cucumbers and all kinds of different vegetables. So people eat salads for breakfast, where here you wouldn't typically see them till later on. But also at night, part of the restaurant cuisines was many different salads along with whatever main course you would have. So they use a lot of salads. They have also a lot of lovely cheeses, a lot of lovely dairy products there as well. But it's amazing, wonderful cuisine. Yeah, very satisfying.
And as I'm keeping track, I'm getting the sense that we've checked every box again. So that's awesome. So here's my takeaway, because I love the Mediterranean flavors. I love that style of eating because of all of the fun flavors and low protein and less red meat, and all those things that for me, seem to be a healthy way to eat, right? Because as we've talked about this, Janice, one size does not fit all. And but it's what works for you and your body and your diabetic health and your nutrition. But we've got fiber and antioxidants and all kinds of things in the Israeli Middle Eastern style of eating. Awesome.
And there's also in the United States, we have so many food cultures. When I lived in Ohio for a year, my roommate was from Pennsylvania, and she introduced me to Pennsylvania Dutch cooking. And they do a lot of pickling and preserving because of the weather and their food access there, and the influence of the Amish people. So I had shoe fly pie, and I had all these wonderful Amish and Pennsylvania Dutch foods. And then friends of mine are from the southern part of the United States, where they have more the greens and other types of foods that tell a story, part of their culture, part of their heritage. Cornbread, things like that are also lovely, wonderful foods, but they sustained people, got them through lots of tough times, like the pickling and the preservation. I know my parents grew up during the Depression era, and they never saw broccoli. They had no idea what broccoli was or many foods because of the culture and the access to food at that time. So they only knew canned foods. They only knew, canned sardines and just not a lot of other things that we have here in California. They would have, I didn't ever taste broccoli till I was in college, actually, because my parents had no idea what to do with it.
Interesting. So I've told this next statement to thousands of people. If you're newly diagnosed or have had diabetes for a while and are struggling with the whole nutrition component, for my recommendation, true for my experience, is although my doctor or my endocrinologist is amazing in so many levels, when it comes to nutrition, I wouldn't exactly call them experts. So I tell
they don't have much training in that typically.
They don't. I was trying to say that in a very kind way, but thank you for jumping in and saying it even kinder. So what I would do if you're listening to this podcast, wait till it's over. And then the next phone call you should make is to a local hospital or do a search on the internet to find yourself a Janice Baker, a registered certified dietitian nutritionist, someone who could learn about you and your body type and body style, the foods you love to eat, and can help guide and direct you to foods that you would like that have high nutrition for you.
Yeah. I love how you say that, because we are not the food police.
Right.
We don't, what I say, should all over you.
Right.
And yes, you want to make sure it's a registered dietitian nutritionist, preferably somebody who's also a certified diabetes care and education specialist. So you can do a search for us on eatright.org. So there's a search where you can find a local registered dietitian nutritionist. Hospitals may or may not offer these services. So eatright.org, or you can go to diabeteseducator.org. They also have find a local certified diabetes care and education specialist on those two sites. And in the show notes, Robert, you can put in my contact information as well.
Yep.
You're welcome to contact me directly. If you want to ask me more questions, if you'd like to see if we can work together, I'm really happy to talk to you. You can just send me a note and I'm happy to get back to you.
Yeah, perfect. I know when I was first diagnosed, I really struggled with the food, like most diabetics do. And I met a certified registered dietitian, and she said, I'll tell you what, where do you shop? And I said, well, here's where I shop. Tell you what, let's just meet there. And for an hour, I'll walk you up and down the aisles of the grocery store. And it was amazing. It was eye-opening for me.
Yeah, I've done that with many clients, grocery store tours and personal shopping tours. And it's a lot of fun because, it's based in reality, and you can pick up on, what the details between what the items are and, what the labels mean, because really food labels are a lot of marketing. The details are really in fine print. It's really tough because how they place foods. I also have a business degree. How they place foods in the end aisle and the things they want you to buy is not necessarily things that are consistent with your goals, right?
Right.
So, and our job, my passion anyway, is to save people money. I mean, having diabetes is expensive, and being confused over the food choices can cost you a lot too, in time, energy, stress, not to mention the money. So my passion is to help people with maintaining their budgets, because I look at we zoom out, look at the big picture, look at your food access, look at other goals of care. Are you living by yourself? Are you living with a family that you have to cook for? Or what's your job situation like? So we look at all the aspects of your life, not just the diabetes or the numbers or whatever. We look at what is sustainable, what's realistic, what do you love? Is this something that we can be flexible with?
Perfect. I think you're exactly right. Again, because one size does not fit all, and it's different for everybody, right? Awesome. Well, Janice, this has been amazing. Anything else you want to throw into the mix before
I
we
just
say
want to
goodbye?
say, enjoy your food. Remember, joy and pleasure and satisfaction is as much a part of nutrition as the vitamin and mineral count. You really have to really get pleasure in food. It's a huge quality of life issue. Don't be afraid to experiment, try some new fun things that may be from different cultures, or go to another restaurant from a different culture. Like one of my favorite restaurants was an Afghani restaurant. It was lovely, So, if you don't want to do the cooking, try restaurants from different cultures and see what they have to offer. I think that's a really great way to not restrict. It's opposite of restriction. It's expanding your food choices.
Eating should be a joy and not drudgery.
Sometimes you just have to eat the sandwich to get you through the day, right?
Of course.
It's not always going to be a gourmet meal at every time. You just need to nourish your brain and your body. But for the most part, it should be still something you like. And Again, we have some moments that are just more gastronomic events than others.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, no, you're exactly right about that. Absolutely. Okay, well, Janice, this has been amazing. We need to talk more about sugars because that's another hot topic.
We'll do that.
And you're an expert on that topic too. So, all right, everybody. Well, Janice, thank you for being on the podcast today. It's been my honor and pleasure to have you. And I will put all your information in the show notes. I'll put the Wasser Cracker link in there. I'll put the eatright.org link in there. We'll make sure everybody knows where to find you and healthy information about delicious and healthy eating. All right. Thank you, Janice.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. It's time now for the recipe of the podcast, my cantaloupe and prosciutto salad. A classic combination found in Venice, Florence, and all over Italy. I'm going to turn this classical cantaloupe prosciutto dish into a salad. So what are you going to need? Here we go. Here's what's in it. And I will also post this recipe on my blog at happydiabetic.com. You're going to need olive oil, lime zest, lime juice, some white wine vinegar, honey, Dijon mustard, salt, and cilantro leaves. And for the salad, we're going to need fresh arugula or baby spinach, about 5 ounces, half a medium red onion, thinly sliced, a quarter cup of thinly sliced fresh mint leaves, a quarter cup of thinly sliced fresh basil leaves, 8 cups of diced honeydew or cantaloupe melon. I'm going with cantaloupe today. 1 package, 8 ounces of fresh mozzarella cheese pearls. It's those little delicious pearl of mozzarella cheese. Very delicious. And then you're going to need about a quarter pound of thinly sliced prosciutto cut into wide strips. So it's really simple. You're going to take the first 8 ingredients in a blender and process it till it's smooth. That's your dressing. Then you're going to take your arugula, onions, and herbs in a large bowl, drizzle it with a 1/3 cup of the vinaigrette, and lightly coat it. So in a large serving bowl, layer with a quarter of the salad mixture, the prosciutto, mozzarella cheese, and there you have it. And then you're going to repeat that 3 times. So let me go through that again. You're going to top the salad with a 1/3 cup of vinaigrette dressing. And then you're going to take a quarter of the salad mixture on top of that with some cantaloupe, mozzarella cheese, and prosciutto. Repeat that again. Salad, honeydew melon, or cantaloupe, whatever you like, mozzarella cheese, and prosciutto 3 times. And that's it. Serve the remaining vinaigrette on the side, and you have a delicious and simple Italian-style cantaloupe and prosciutto salad of love. All right, stay tuned. We'll be right back. Thanks again for listening. The material on this podcast is provided for educational purposes only and is not to be used for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Before starting any weight loss program or style of eating, I would highly recommend you consult your physician or healthcare provider. I'm a chef living with type 2 diabetes. I'm not a doctor, dietitian, or certified diabetic educator. Although I have 3 children, Attila, Dracula, and Frankenstein, that makes me kind of a psychiatrist of sorts. If you're loving what you hear in the kitchen, please leave a comment or feedback at Stitcher, Google Play, or Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening. Your thoughts and your comments are greatly appreciated. Thank you for tuning in. Our podcast is sponsored by my friends at US Med Supply. Our theme music by the Happy Diabetic Kitchen Band, and of course, our kitchen mascots, Scout and Tucker. Matter of fact, Scout is watching the birds at the bird feeder, and Tucker is trying to squeeze into a very small Amazon box. This year, better than last year. This month, better than last month. This week, better than last week. This day, better than yesterday. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and let me leave you with this thought. World famous chef Thomas Keller once said, "A recipe has no soul. You, as the cook, must bring the soul to the recipe." All right, everyone, so long for now. Remember, no one loves you more than me. I want to remind everybody that I am a chef living with type 2 diabetes since 1998. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a certified registered dietitian or a diabetic educator. But I can tell you this, if you need advice on any of those topics, reach out to your medical professional team. They are there and ready to help. Our podcast is produced and directed and engineered by Jason Lewis. Our theme music by the Happy Diabetic Kitchen Band, and of course, our kitchen mascots, Scout and Tucker. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And I want to thank my guest, Max Sadek, Mr. Divabetic. Thanks for being on the show today. And thanks for tuning in. And let me leave you with this thought. Federico Fellini once said, life is a combination of magic and pasta. So remember this, better this year than last year, better this month than last month, better this week than last week, and better this day than yesterday. So long, everybody, and remember, no one loves you more than me. See you next time.